Okay, so welcome to our webinar. Today, we're going to be talking about what to consider when hiring your first AI data analyst. And we'll kind of go into all that entails in the following slides. But before we get into it, we wanted to go ahead and introduce ourselves. So I am the co-founder and CEO of Base Jump AI. Short summary of my history: I started working as a data analyst in my career at a large organization with over 35,000 employees. And then later on, I joined a startup and was the data science lead there. And so I've had various roles within the data space and saw the enormous potential that AI has to change how companies interact with their data. And started working on Base Jump a little over 2 years ago now. And so it's been a great ride so far, and we're hoping to share a little bit more with you guys today what we've learned during that journey.
Hi guys, I'm Joel Funk. I'm the other co-founder and CTO. Mm, I have 20 years experience as a full stack web developer. The last 10 years working for myself, and with an interest in SaaS startups. And yeah, so really excited to have you all here, and let's get into it. Since I got the poll all ready to go here, we wanted to hear from you guys what you're hoping to get out of the webinar. So I'm just going to share that poll with you all right now. So if you go to the little poll tab there, if you have a second, select the answer that applies to you. If none of them apply to you and you've selected others, please include that in the chat. We'd love to hear what you'd like to get out of this webinar, what you're excited to learn about.
All right. Looks like so far everyone is just wondering what an AI data analyst is. So somebody also answered understanding the base jump product better. Okay, perfect. If you have any other things that you're interested in, we can go ahead and take those in the chat. We'll be trying to do our best to answer questions as we go through the webinar here. So if you have anything more specific, feel free to let us know as well. We can really focus on those points that you're curious about. Okay. So what is an AI data analyst? So we'll go ahead and just set this definition here at the very beginning. So an AI data analyst reduces the burden and technical overheads to access and understand data. That's what we're talking about as we're referring to an AI data analyst today. An AI data analyst is built on a concept of AI agents. There's a lot of definitions about AI agents out there, but the one that we're using today is simply an LLM that is put into a loop and has access to tools. So those are just some key terms as we get going here.
Mhm. So why would you need an AI data analyst in the first place? Well, we think, and I think if you have if you're part of a company that collects data, I'm sure that you've experienced this firsthand. But over time, our the data that we're collecting has grown exponentially. It's really an information explosion, and access to that data is limited, and we believe it's too limited. And dashboards currently today are kind of the standard solution to the data problem, but it's an incomplete solution. And insights from your data are critical, but delayed insights could be huge missed opportunities. So obviously, this chart here is showing the data growing over time, and then the insights kind of almost at a flat line, not growing nearly as fast. If we move to the next slide here, we can look at some actual data. So here's some percentages of the market growth in the data analytics space. And you can see here, this follows a similar curve. And if we look at this, it's 27% growth year over year. And if we look ahead to 2032, we can see that this data explosion problem and the tools necessary to solve it is just going to keep happening.
Having worked as a data analyst myself, I really, when we started this company, drew on some past experience. There were a lot of times where I would create a dashboard in Tableau, and I would create the initial dashboard, and it was great. People were starting to use it, and then somebody else would need some more information, so I'd add a filter. And then somebody else would request even more information, and there would be another filter added. And eventually, the dashboard became really complex, and then people had a new problem where they needed help deciphering all the information or even finding the information within the dashboard that they needed. That was a big problem. Comparing between dashboards within an organization was also a big problem. Another problem that there also was where if the self-service analytic tools did not provide the information that was needed, what would have to happen and what happens in most organizations is you go to a data team and you would request for that information, and you might have to wait days or weeks. There were times when I received a request that I knew wasn't that difficult, but I just did not have time to get to that information until after I'd already served and gotten the request fulfilled for the other people who had been waiting. So these first two here are, excuse me, these first two here are really about alleviating the backlog for your data team. That could be one reason why you'd need an AI data analyst. Also, if you don't have a data team but want to start providing analytical insights to your users, an AI data analyst is definitely a really good start. Um, Maybe you want to provide users access to the database, which typically requires coding expertise, but AI is able to um, help query the database on their behalf, and it opens up a whole new option for data access and democratization. Or maybe you want to reduce the time it takes to get information to your users because really it is a really big deal for companies to be able to reduce that time to insight from days or weeks to minutes. As we've been using this tool internally, it's a weird feeling, even while knowing how to query the database and write those queries myself. I tend to just prefer using a base jump AI to query that and just to get that information right away. So, what does hiring an AI data analyst actually involve? So, hiring an AI data analyst involves a couple of things. So I'm going to go ahead and talk with the newest aspects of hiring an AI data analyst and then go into something that might seem a little more familiar. Um, so at a high level, what I'm talking about is providing an LLM with tools that are required for it to be able to automate the work done by data analysts. So this first bullet point here is about marketplaces. So we're seeing a rise and proliferation of new kinds of marketplaces, and there's two types that I want to emphasize. There's AI agent marketplaces, such as Agent.ai, or agent tool marketplaces, such as MCP or Wildcard. And I'll go into those specifically here on the following slides. In addition to those are some methods of integrating software that you likely are already very familiar with. Um, there's an option to integrate an API into your existing software, like we provide. There's also using the AI data analytics platform where you're using the UI and interaction with the software. And there's also self-hosting and building your own solution. So I went to Agent.ai and wanted to give you an example of what a standardized platform looks like where you go ahead and hire AI data agents or just AI agents in general. So Agent.ai is trying to be the LinkedIn for AI agents. It's interesting, and we're watching this space. We don't have our agent listed on Agent.ai yet, but we're considering it and kind of exploring that option along with other marketplaces. But I chose an agent called Dreamweaver that I'm going to use for my example. So what it might look like is you pick an agent and it has some setup instructions. So with Dreamweaver, it says, tell me all you remember from your dream last night. And so I went ahead and filled that out along with the other questions. I told it I was totally flying over a canyon. The story is going to be fiction. It's mythological and it's done in the first person narrative. It gave me this AI generated image where I guess I just happened to be a mythological animal with 3 wings, and it gave me a nice description, right? The way that this would look for base jump is you likely would connect with your database and describe some of those columns or tables within your database and then really get going there. The setup is obviously a lot higher than just filling something like this out. Let's talk about agent tool marketplaces now. So agent tool marketplaces include examples like Wildcard and MCP. MCP stands for Model Context Protocol from Anthropic. It's a lot more popular, so I'm just going to go ahead and emphasize Wildcard's approach because they're very similar. So with an agent tool marketplace, you take an LLM that you already have access to, and then you give that LLM access to a tool. And those tools are served via APIs. So what Wildcard does is they have this file called an agents.json file which helps the AI understand exactly how to access the API service and makes it more robust and reliable. So we're really excited about these different avenues of how agents are providing, how options are being provided to essentially hire AI data agents and integrate them with your existing tools.
All right. So now, what are some of the things that you should be considering when you're looking for your AI data analyst? I'm going to go through a list of them and then we'll go through each of these in more detail in our further slides. So number one at the top of the list, and we think this is our number one as well, is security and data access. Essentially, this is what's the agent going to have access to? Are they going to be able to see things that they shouldn't? And are those things going to accidentally be returned to my users? These are things that you need to be considering. So security and data access, tap them out. Data governance, the semantic layer, and the AI context. The technical implementation, like how are you going to implement your solution? The accuracy, trust, and consistency, and finally, the ease of integration for whatever solution that you end up choosing. All right, so let's talk about security and data access. So, hmm, here's some specific considerations with data access and security. So, ask yourself the following: is the AI agent based on an open source model, or is it served by an API? And if it's served by an API, is it training on your data? All companies aren't as transparent on this particular thing. We try to be as transparent as possible. And actually, we'll go into this in a little bit, but we plan on open sourcing um, our project to be most transparent. Does your number two, does your company store any information from the output? Does the service that you're using offer private storage options? Basejump provides both of these out of the box. We can store for you, but we do provide private storage options so that you can have full control over the data that's generated from the output. And number three, is there an option to deploy on premises if needed? And for a lot of companies, especially within government or healthcare, this is very important. And if the tool doesn't provide this, obviously you're not going to be using it. Number four, does the company train the LLM, the language model on the information within your database, or are they just using the metadata? In Basejump's case, we just use the metadata, which is really the description of your database and how things relate to one another, not the data within it. And number five, does the company have HIPAA, SOC 2, or other certifications to provide greater assurances of how your data is being handled? And of course, if you work within an organization that requires these, you're going to need to work with tools or services that have those certifications as well. And number six, how are they handling security for various roles? Are they using something like RBAC, role-based access control? Oddly enough, a lot of the competitors that we've done some analysis on in this space do not provide very little or nothing at all in this area. So this is also something that Basejump really cares about, and it's something that we provide.
So next, we're going to move on to data governance. So let me go ahead and define that right off from the gate because it can mean a lot of things depending on who you're talking to. But what we mean when we're talking about data governance is ensuring that the data is accurate, consistent, secure, and usable throughout its life cycle. Took that right off of a Google search that I just really agree with. I think it's important as we're considering AI products to make sure that we're finding AI products that care, especially data products specifically, that care about data governance. The prior wave of self-service analytics, with that prior wave, we really saw dashboards rise and increase in prominence. And as they did, a thing that was overlooked by the providers such as like Tableau or Power BI or other solutions was data governance was not built in. This led to a lot of different dashboards being created, and there might be the same information on multiple dashboards, but that information is not able to be easily compared. And as a data analyst, you'll have to go through and talk with another data analyst and figure out, okay, we're presenting the same metric in slightly different ways. People want to understand why the numbers are so off. It's really important that as these AI products and AI data analyst agents take off, that this is really a key consideration. So, if you haven't heard yet about Jevons paradox, I want to explain that a little bit and why that's very, very relevant to AI data analysts in general. So, as the barrier to data access is lowered, demand will increase to meet supply. So, I have an image here of cars on a freeway, and you might think that if you just increase the size of this freeway, that the traffic would flow more smoothly, and it would initially. But the paradox is that the demand will rise to meet the supply, and very soon, there will be traffic again, and it will just be as sluggish as before. And so the way that this analogy compares to AI data analysts is with if we give people more access and democratize the information that's available for them to query, you're going to see the number of reports explode. And that opens up a big opportunity for confusion if that information is not governed and managed in a way that makes sure that that confusion is not allowed to proliferate and trust will decrease due to the confusion on which report is right. If everybody has tens or hundreds of reports, whereas before they only had one to two that they would reference, that definitely opens up the possibility for a lot of confusion. And our view is that AI data analysts that don't emphasize this will ultimately fail due to lack of trust in too many reports. So our approach to data governance is all information can be saved on our homepage, which is called the data page. So you can see here 4 different tiles. Each of these we call data object. So any of these data objects can be compared to any other piece of information, which is key. The query that was used to generate it lives with the data object, and we'll go ahead and deterministically classify how those queries are different. And we will also go ahead and after they're classified how they're different, the AI will explain to the user exactly the nuance that exists there, whether it may be a filter or a different aggregation that's causing those numbers to be different and those queries to be different. Um, we also emphasize verification and human in the loop. People need to be able to trust the information that's being provided to them. And so I'll go into verification a little more on the future slides. But really, if you can see that somebody else has already reviewed information that you're looking at and done their own verification, that helps you to have trust in it. That not only is the AI analyst providing that to you, but your coworkers are also looking at that same information. And then each piece of information here, these data objects can be shared within teams. And we make that available through our role-based access control, where the admins will go ahead and set up a team. And then within that team, you have access to the same sources so you can freely share metrics and different data objects with each other. So let me go and talk about human in the loop verification a little more. And so each of these data objects you can see here on a given tile, you can mark it as verified. This means that you have gone through and checked that this information looks correct. You've looked at the source tables possibly that were used to generate the query, and the information just makes sense. So you can mark that as verified. And so the way you increase trust in an AI data analytics system is you provide a way for users to easily audit the information provided. One, which we will talk about. We provide that in our chat interface. And two, you allow users to verify their information, and then you cache that information into the semantic layer, and that information can then be served to other users. So what this does is build something that we call the flywheel of trust, where the process of how an answer is given to a user, overly simplified, kind of looks like this. So let me walk you guys through this. So first, a user would ask a question and provide a prompt to the AI data agent. The AI data agent then takes that question and sees if it's already been answered and checks the verified responses. After it gets those back, it really does a review. And if that answer has already been provided, it'll go ahead and shortcut this process and just provide that information back to the user. If the information doesn't already exist in the human verified semantic layer, it will go ahead and create and verify a SQL query. We'll be open sourcing this, and so people will be able to see how this is done. But essentially, at a high level, what we're doing is you have this text to SQL engine where the SQL query is being parsed, and different aspects of the query are verified using our verification engine, the machine verification portion of it. So things like is the table hallucinated or not? Are the columns hallucinated or not? Are the filters correct? And finally, are the joins that the SQL query is making correct, and is the primary key preserved? We guarantee all of those things, that all the columns will be correct, tables will be correct, filters will be correct, joins will be correct, and primary key will be preserved. That really provides confidence to the user that what they're seeing um, starts becoming more an issue of if the information provided is relevant, as opposed to if the query is even accurate at all. So this query is then executed against the database, and then the AI data agent receives that information, and it decides whether to answer user or search again. And so, really, as users use the platform, it should become more and more trusted. And we're actually going to add what we call a trust score to our platform very soon, where it essentially takes feedback from the thumbs up, thumbs down responses, and uses that to improve the agent over time and communicate what level of trust there is in the system.
All right, so let's talk a little bit more about the semantic layer and how we build AI context. So most databases, you can derive a lot of metadata from the database itself by profiling it. Um, but in a lot of cases, there's extra metadata that's not provided there that we can enrich with another layer. So we provide a tool for admins within Basejump to enrich the metadata that way. So here you can see that sort of a view of that tool. You have access to all the tables within the different databases that you have access to, and then you can provide additional context. And this has actually been a pretty powerful feature that came out of interactions with some of our clients. Wanted to provide more context for the AI, and they just love this feature because they feel like they have real control to tune the AI to understand their data and get better results. Next, we want to look at how we provide context back to the user. So we talked about the metadata that provides context to the AI agent. Now, how does the user understand how to ask good questions when interacting with an AI data analyst? And so we provide an explore section of our application with two tools, one for traversing the actual tables within the database and actually looking at the data itself. And then this one right here is an entity relationship diagram, which shows the different tables within your database and then the relationship between those things. So this kind of gives you a general understanding of all the pieces of data and how they relate to one another, which helps inform your prompts when interacting with the agent. All right, so the semantic layer, we really believe that it's not just a top down, but we believe in a bottom up approach, which means that when different people within your organization are interacting with your AI data analyst and generating these data objects, they're actually building uh, a glossary and a semantic layer that helps the AI better understand um, the language that you're using within your organization and the type of metrics that the people on your team are looking for and are after. So here we're seeing those objects again that we looked at in an earlier slide. Each one of these objects is providing additional context to that semantic layer.
So now I'm going to go into technical implementation. It's important to understand what kind of system you're dealing with. And before I move on, I also just wanted to say that we're really excited about the opportunity, not for just an AI data analyst in a silo, but really to help break down the silos that might exist within an organization already, where somebody might not realize somebody else from another department is asking the same questions, but when they receive cache information back, they can see, oh man, the same person has the same access to that I have to this data source is asking this question and has verified it. And or people are sharing this information with me from their data pages, and it's really making it so that we can avoid these meetings on defining exactly key metrics, because really at the end of the day, everyone has a slightly different data need, and you get to this aspect where you're focused on getting unique insights to every single individual. And we wrote a post about it called Precision Analytics, which you guys can go ahead and read on our blog if you're interested. But really, this idea that we're going into an era where everyone is able to get exactly what they need and understand exactly how everything is different. So AI can be that communication broker and be in the middle there and helping improve efficiency. So the base jump AI data agent, the way it operates is it's using text to SQL. And it's important to understand if you're dealing with a text to SQL, text to Python, or something else entirely. Text to Python is going to be slower than a text to SQL solution. And obviously, SQL is how data analysts primarily are retrieving the information that they're serving to you. An important benchmark is Spider 2.0. We are going to be releasing how we perform on Spider 2.0 soon. And you'll be able to see how we compare it to other options. Um, and so the way that the technical implementation for Bayesian AI works is you have a prompt at the beginning. You might enrich that prompt from a glossary, and that's provided to the agent. The agent then decides whether to use tools, and we simplified it here, but um, you might have two tools such as executing a SQL query or retrieving stable information. Once the agent gets back the information from those tools, it'll decide whether it wants to use tools again, does this in a loop until eventually it returns a response to the user. All right. So then accuracy, trust, and consistency. So these are also extremely important. And I'll go into this a little more here. So even with if the system can get and become 95% accurate, AI platforms need to solve that final 5% or whatever percentage that may be. So we address this need for trust in two ways. We allow users to audit the information and try to provide them as much information as possible with this audit drop down here. This is a screenshot of a chat response from our AI data analyst. And right now, when you do the click the drop down, it shows the SQL. However, this is not enough. We're going to be improving this so it provides the steps it took in English, so users can go back and check those sources for themselves and really understand the filters, the aggregations, the data sets that are being used in a really easy to digest way. Um, there's also another method to get and really bridge that gap to 100% accuracy and confidence in the data you're retrieving, and that is RAG over metrics. RAG over metrics is where you predefine the metrics that you are interested in, and then you only allow the AI to retrieve that information. I haven't defined RAG, and we haven't really gone over RAG in this webinar so far, but if you're interested, go ahead and look that up. It stands for Retrieval Augmented Generation, and it's core with how a lot of these AI platforms are operating nowadays.
All right. So finally, when doing all this consideration for hiring your AI data analysts, you have to consider how easy is it going to be to integrate this into my current work environment, and if if the services that you're considering are difficult to integrate, then it just might be a non-starter. So onboarding should be quick and seamless, and as Andreas just mentioned, with our previously some companies have required these predefined metrics in a YAML file, and it doesn't have to be that way. So we really want to reduce the amount of barriers there are to accessing your data, and for companies to begin to experience this revolution in data access. So we have decided to open source our project. We're going to be open sourcing the metadata profiler next month, and then our entire backend mm, of the month afterwards. And we want to make this as transparent and as easy to integrate as possible. So yeah, we're really excited. Thank you so much for attending our webinar today. We hope that there's been something that you've learned, and we really hope that it sparked some questions. So if there are any questions that you've had or that you're having right now related to the topic, please include them in the chat, and we've set aside some time right now to go over those and start answering them.
Okay, so it looks like we do have a question from Aman, where he's asking, what's the base model used to power the Texas SQL, and how are the or what are the accuracy differences between models? Okay, so that was a really good question. There's different models that are tuned specifically for coding. You really see this shine with the latest model for GPT-4, GPT 4.1. We're going to be adding that model as an option and just have a model picker within Base Jump. That one is coming hopefully either this week or beginning of next week. Right now, our default is GPT 4.0, and we're serving that through the Azure OpenAI platform because they provide some nice guarantees. However, you'll have a Claude 3.7 and GPT 4.1, and we fully expect those to be even better than obviously the standard and the default in the past, which is GPT 4.0. If you want to go ahead and talk with us more, book a meeting with us through Calendly.